Hi, welcome to SBR TV. I'm Peter Loshak. Right now we're going to talk with T. Powell, who did a bunch of college basketball preview shows with us this past season. We're going to talk to him right now about the Big East Conference tournament that's coming up this week, because T. Powell seems to be an expert in the Big East in particular, and a lot of his recommendations during the regular season were pretty spot on concerning the Big East. So I want to hear what he has to say about the Big East Conference tournament. T. Powell, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Just looking down here at some futures on this Big East tournament. Trying to pick out a lottery ticket, it seems like.
So what do you? I mean, it starts today. The first game I think is in an hour or something. So what do you have to say about the Big East tournament? What teams are you looking at betting on? What teams you may be looking at fading?
Probably one team I'm looking at betting on is probably going to be Seton Hall is probably one of the teams I'm going to be looking to bet on, and I think if they can get by today, I think they're probably out of all the teams playing today, I think they're the team that could potentially make a big run. They've got the offensive firepower capabilities, and they're probably the deepest team playing today.
Let me ask you about Seton Hall and that Rutgers game today, because that's one game that I caught on the overnights. Rutgers is a 3.5-point underdog, and during the regular season, both teams split. They played 2 games. Each team won 1, and they were both pretty close games. So I was looking at that game thinking it's on a neutral court. Maybe Rutgers would be a good play at plus 3.5. You don't think so?
I like Seton Hall to at least win this game, but the cover could go either way. I like the way Seton Hall is playing recently. Double-digit wins over Marquette and St. John. Yeah. Rutgers isn't a bad team, but talent-wise, they're just way overmatched. I think, March is when, Hazel's probably going to get back. I mean, the guy's, had his hand broke. He's been shot. Maybe it takes a little bit longer to, get things ready to go. So.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that if Seton Hall gets by the game today, then they'll probably be a dog for the rest of the tournament, and that you think they'll be a good bet in those games.
Yeah, I'm looking at the bracket here, and they would get St. John's tomorrow, which would be a pretty tough game, but they would be getting quite a bit. I think you throw in a little bit of overinflated line with St. John's, and it would be it'd be a tough game for them to win. But yeah, I think they could definitely at least cover that spread.
Yeah, you've had a pretty good read on St. John's this year. What do you think of them in the tournament?
In March, I think a lot of times in these quick turnaround games, you'll find that teams with just the talent can overcome and win these games. It's hard to get into their scouting reports in a day or so.
So talent and depth comes into play in these turnaround games. So which teams are you going to be looking to fade in the Big East tournament, if any?
I hate to say this, but I'm not putting my money anywhere near Villanova. 1-9 against the spread last few games. Another team that I definitely don't see my money going on is Syracuse. I think I've spoke a couple of times on them, and it's been wrong. Been wrong once or twice, been right once or twice, but. I think they would end up with either St. John's or Seton Hall in their quarterfinal match, and I can see them getting beat by either one very easily, especially St. John's.
What about West Virginia? They're kind of a funny team to get a handle on. They tend to play a lot of low-scoring games. What's your take on West Virginia? You think they're likely to be undervalued, overvalued?
I don't really see them, as a huge. Is being undervalued or overvalued, but they probably match up against Marquette, and with Marquette as a pretty good was at least a decent sized underdog, and Marquette's playing for quite a bit, so I think Marquette has a decent chance of actually going, playing Louisville in that game, winning a couple of games in this Big East tournament to get to Louisville. I think they can beat West Virginia straight up if it gets there. So.
Let me ask something. A lot of times in these major conference tournaments, there is a team that doesn't need to win. That's a cinch to make the NCAA tournament. And sometimes those teams are still a good bet in the conference tournaments, but a lot of times they're also a good fade. Are there any teams that have caught your eye in the Big East tournament this year? A team that definitely will be in the final 64 and doesn't need to win this, and so you might want to fade them?
When I think about that, Well, you look at the 8 teams playing, and I would just a rough estimation that Villanova and UConn are both in the field, but I don't see them having a big enough letdown to lose to a DePaul or a South Florida, so that kind of maybe goes out the window a little bit.
But in the later rounds, maybe.
In the next round is when I think
Right.
you'll see this, because you have Georgetown, St. John, Cincinnati, West Virginia, all of which are firmly locked into the field. If there's a letdown, I'm gonna zero in on probably West Virginia. That's probably one of the teams that I think could come out and just completely fall apart. I think Georgetown's got a little bit to play for without Chris Wright.
Hmm.
And I think the line's going to be undervalued there anyway. And with St. John's and Cincinnati, I really like them, both playing wise, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Cincinnati take down Notre Dame in the next round, to be honest.
All right, T. Powell, thanks for this great call once again. We'll talk to you about the rest of March Madness later on in the month.
All right, I'll be ready. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.